let's begin. Before we run down the games and we go rapid fire with you, what do you think of what the NFL announced yesterday with the AFC seeding?
I don't want it to come off as insensitive, but I don't know of a situation that could have played out where the Buffalo Bills benefited more and everybody else kind of got the bad end of the deal in this situation. Now, it's not official yet. They have to vote on it today. So let's see if that changes. But I mean, Kansas City, if they were to get the 1 seed, would have had a massive home field advantage in that AFC Championship game. Now that appears, if everything holds out and everybody wins, that will be stripped away from them. So you see a lot of value kind of dissipate within that. You also have the scheduling of the games where when you were watching that game on Monday night before the unfortunate set of circumstances obviously unfolded on the field, Bengals went right up the field on that first drive and were across midfield before the game was stopped, and they were up 7-3. So who knows how that could have played out. And we don't know where this neutral site is going to be scheduled. If there's a team that has their fans travel more, especially if this is going to be an indie game potentially, which I don't love overall, but I mean, that's going to be a very pro Buffalo crowd regardless. So, I mean, you're kind of looking at all these scenarios, how they all play out. Chiefs lose the home game for potentially getting the 1 seed here. The Bengals have no chance of any of it. And the Bills, they kind of come out on top in every single scenario here. So I don't know if it was the best sort of solution overall or the most fair to everybody, but certainly a pretty big break here for the Bills with how that might look if everybody wins throughout the playoffs here in the top in terms of the top seeds.
Let's go. Let's start with the game Saturday. KC and the Raiders. KC laying double digits on the road. Stidham surprised a lot of people how well he played against a great 49er defense. What do you think of this one here? And you like some ugly dogs, but what are your thoughts on this game?
One of the sort of more interesting internal political games within an NFL franchise we've seen in a long time. 2 weeks ago, they sent home Derek Carr. Obviously, was labeled as the franchise quarterback, massive contract. Josh McDaniels has this guy waiting in the wings, and Stidham, who knows the offense, came over with him. He always has spoken many times about how he knows the offense better than any other QB on the entire roster. McDaniel's job has been up in the air for much of the season, and you kind of have this 2-game parlay internally for the Raiders where if it's another good game from Stidham, well, they kind of save themselves a lot of money off the books next year with Carr being able to deal him out somewhere else. McDaniels gets his guy. I think there's plenty of motivation here for the Raiders in their last home game of the season with all of that going on internally. A big number for the Chiefs defense, which has been struggling to be laying, but we've seen this total get bet up, rightfully so. Think there's a lot of points in this game. So I'd look at the over still at 52, but a very interesting game for Raiders fans and the franchise.
All right, I see a lot of points in that one as well. How about Saturday night? What do you expect out of Dobbs and the Titans?
So no matter how you want to look at it, Dobbs is an upgrade over Malik Willis. He gives the Titans a threat to pass that you just weren't getting with Willis. The Titans now, everyone on the roster, either 14 or 17 days rest. It's been essentially an extended bye week for them coming in. The defensive injury report, better than we have seen it in about 8 weeks for the Titans, especially up front. Very good run defense. The Jags, very smart week-to-week game planning. Going to be another game. Ton of passes from Trevor Lawrence. 40-plus attempts in the meeting just a couple of weeks ago. Massive swing in the number. This was Titans -3 a couple weeks ago. We're over to Jags -6.5 at home here for the division. Obviously, no Tannehill. Maybe the downgrade to Dobbs has been a little bit too far, but another game, both offenses, I think, going to have a lot of success when you're looking at some props. If you can find Zay Jones over, he's about 57, 58.5. That's a pretty good look in this one.
All right. I'm surprised with this one, too. Now, the first meeting wasn't that long ago, and Geno Smith had to rally him late to win a high-scoring game against Wolford and the Rams. Now it's Baker. On the road, Seattle win and in with a Green Bay loss. What do you think of Seattle laying a touchdown at home?
Too much at 6 still. Number anywhere that I look sort of respected ratings, anything, you're closer to 4.5 in this game than you are 6. This is the must-win bump that we're seeing a number of teams get against a team that is not able to make the playoffs. Obviously, and the Rams already eliminated. Sub 40% are these must-win teams the last 20 years in the NFL against the spread. It's just that extra inflation. As you mentioned, the Rams were within the number, but that was also a game where the Rams had a lot of injuries. Obviously, they made the QB change going into that. And matched up here, Seahawks, they struggle against two things, tight ends and running backs. And Cam Akers the last couple of weeks has looked really, really good on the ground, a bit of a resurgence for him. Baker Mayfield loves throwing at tight ends, loves targeting the running backs too. And so, again, the first meeting just a couple weeks ago, very competitive between these two teams. And I think this one's going to be competitive again as well. Numbers too big here. I'll take Rams +6.
All right, Adam, your Jets were favored in Miami, but now that game has flipped, and the Dolphins are currently laying like 2 pretty much across the board. How did you bet this game? Why did you bet it the way you did, and how would you bet it right now?
Took Dolphins money line yesterday, -120. Obviously, that price is long gone. It helps nobody in saying that right now. What I will say is, stay close to your phones and computers this morning. Around 11 a.m. Eastern time, we'll have more information on Mike White. The last 2 days, it has taken a bit of a turn in terms of how they're labeling him in terms of his health for this game. Went from will play on Monday to should play on Tuesday to a limited practice on the key day of Thursday where he didn't throw any passes yesterday. Still has the rib injuries, maybe a little bit more going on back there, but it's a situation where if White is not going to be on the field for the Jets, if they happen to go to Streveler or decide to reactivate Wilson, this number is going to move back towards where it was earlier in the week at a field goal for Miami. Even with Skylar Thompson, that's going to be a massive downgrade for the Jets in this spot. So keep an eye on that one a little bit later this morning.
Wow, interesting. Fantastic. Your guy, Streveler, CFL. I like the under in this game, 40 and a half. What are your thoughts on Cleveland-Pittsburgh?
So I was surprised to see this get to where it was. And again, it's just a must-win bump. We're seeing it a lot this week where the Steelers were out at 3. They're at 2.5 now. Browns are a fantastic teaser leg at 2.5. I still think at +125. You can bet them on the money line too. I like that. A spot where, although the Steelers might find some success on the ground, if they have to throw it, this defensive front for Cleveland going to be able to put pressure on Kenny Pickett. I think the Browns offense, it's been suppressed by weather. They've had a couple win games. They've played 3 straight games against very good defenses, all inside the top 12 for defensive efficiency on the season. The Steelers have benefited from playing a ton of backups, a ton of QBs, no longer in the league. 6 straight games they have played a team that has been dealing with some sort of QB situation where it's not the main starter. Now they're getting Watson, who's making his 6th start, but he's improving. Last week in the second half, the Browns were saying it was his best half so far of any game he's started. I think this is going to be a spot where the Browns find some success on offense. This should be closer to a pick 'em. So if you can still get the Browns at plus money, or especially in the teaser leg, worth the look for sure.
Adam, 90 seconds. Pauly and I both bet the Packers on Monday -4. The thought was that number is only going to go up. It was never going to go below 4. We can get out of it if we want, try to maybe catch a middle, if it maybe hit 6.5, 7 potentially. I don't know how high it can go. How are you approaching Packers line Sunday night?
Well, we're stuck in this one for now. You have to wait to see what happens with the Seahawks game. I don't think there's any lack of motivation for the Lions either way, just because it's Dan Campbell. But at 5, I'm not betting the Packers. I think this number's a little bit inflated again because of the situation. But let's wait and see. If the Seahawks win and this goes up, at 6, I could only look the way of the Lions. But you have to wait for the Seahawks game to finish, obviously.
And one more with Cincinnati and Baltimore. And it's going to be Huntley again. And who knows when Jackson comes back this year. And then if there could be a coin toss scenario here if Baltimore wins.
So we don't know if it's Huntley for sure. Didn't throw yesterday at practice. Shoulder injury lingering. What's going on with Lamar? Is he going to be okay for the playoffs? I don't know if the Ravens risk Huntley in this game the way that it's trending. If it is Anthony Brown, it doesn't get worse than Anthony Brown in the NFL for a QB situation. So if you see a 7 with Cincinnati, worth taking it this morning, because if that practice report in a couple hours comes out and there's no Huntley, this number is going way up for sure against Anthony Brown. It's going to be ugly for the Ravens on Sunday.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.